Just got to find it and open it. Okay, it's open. So, picking up where we left off, you should have 2, maybe 3 levels already if you decided you wanted extra credit last time. And we're going to be using this guy. So we've got this sprite sheet. It's also on the 2D asset repo. That's where I borrowed this from. And so we're going to be using little clips of this. There's a lot of crazy setup. We'll be modifying one script and adding another script. And then, in case I forget to mention it before we leave, so we're doing all down to here. We're going to get this guy jumping and doing all his stuff. And then I want you to learn how to create a menu. But this guy, anyone heard of Brackeys? Few people. Dude just does his job well. So why would I step on his toes? So his video from like, I don't know, 2017 or whatever on creating menus is still one of the best on creating menus. So this, I believe, like 16-minute video is linked here at the bottom. I've got some extra instructions on top of that. So we'll get this guy hooked up with his animations, and then you will be on your own with that video to create some menus. And then, as like last time, we've got some extra credit opportunities here. Sweet, it opened up. All right, I didn't know if I could filibuster very much longer. All right, so let me just make sure that everything works here for one, and I don't need my tile palette because I'm not doing that. Okay, so I got a little diamond rupee guy from Zelda or whatever. He jumps around, he collects things. Apparently not that coin, or not that key. And yeah, I might have just had a graphic in there. Yep, that's just a graphic, not a key pickup. That's what happened. Okay, so he works. Cool. Everyone should be roughly thus far. Now, so we're gonna get this green diamond guy and throw him out the window, and we're gonna bring in a new sprite. So I'm gonna go down to my sprites folder here. I've already downloaded. Whoa, that's super small. That's fun. Okay, I've already downloaded the sprite sheet here. I'm going to drag it in to my sprites folder. Just like that. It's magic. Where'd it go? And I'm just going to rename it right away. So I'm going to call this Night instead of sprite sheet, just because the shorter name is going to help us later. So it's going to be a Night. Open this guy up. We've got our usual import settings here. So sprite, 2D, and UI is set. We'll go to multiple. For this guy, I think what I decided on was like 48. We might try 32. I think 48 is what I got listed here. He's just, he's more detailed. To get him sized right, yeah, I've got him set to 48. And then another thing to note here, so I've got 48 pixels per unit. We're going to set our filter mode to point and no filter. And a few people, while importing sprites, whether the stuff we made in Piskel or other things, notice some weird discoloration. And so this might be the problem for that. So on compression, I'm going to go to none. So we're not trying to optimize the graphic. We're not trying to clean it up. Like, let us see it as it really is. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply, hit my sprite editor. And then for this guy, we've got all these different frames for his animations. So I'm going to go by cell count, and I believe we're going to do this 14 by 12, and we should see these squares cutting them up nicely. And then, yeah, that should work. We'll go ahead and hit slice and apply. So we've got this guy set up. I'll use this area just as an example. So I could drag him in here like we do with the keys and the other stuff, and it'll give me one big long animation with all of his frames, which we don't really need quite yet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to grab the very first frame here, night_1. Let's save whatever settings are there. And I'm going to drag that into my hierarchy window. And he should be all good. So he's about the right size compared to my green shape that I had. So with him selected, I'm going to go Window, Animation, and Animation. I'm just going to pull up this window here. If we did it right, if I've got the things selected in my hierarchy or in my scene, then I'll get this with this cool Create button, where I can start doing stuff. If I didn't, I don't have them selected, okay? I've got Win Target or something else, nothing selected. I go to Window, Animation, Animation, it comes up, it doesn't do anything. Like the buttons don't work, I can't right-click anything. This window has no context for whatever reason. So make sure your thing is selected when you hit Window, Animation, Animation, and you get this cool button. So we'll go ahead and hit Create. I'm going to create a new animation. I'm going to make can I make it? Yeah, I'll do it right here. I'm going to make a folder inside my sprites folder for my animations. Make it in there, and we're just going to call this the night animation. And if we set it all up right, then I can just create all kinds of new clips all day long here. So I totally planned a little bit of this, cheated, worked ahead, whatever you want to call it. And I've got all these numbers here broken out as the sprite editor gave us. So we get from 0 to, I believe, like 91, tons of frames. So I'm going to first, for the night animation, because I might want to use this, I'm going to go ahead and select all of them. And if I want to use this on my main menu screen, I can do that. Just have them doing everything, one big loop. And I'll drag that in here. And now I've got 91 frames of craziness. I actually want to see what this looks like before we go any further. So I'm going to set my samples here to 12 because at 60 frames per second, even 91 frames goes really fast. You just can like stutter and look crazy and we won't see what's going on. So I'm going to set my samples to 12 on the night animation. And let me just see if this will play in my window. So when I created all that, I've got my animator on here. It's got the controller. So this guy should do his thing if I hit play and just watch, see what he does. Nothing else going on. He'll float. He's got a lot of attacks. He dies really quick, blocks, idle, run, jump, all that stuff. So 12 is good. So that's what our samples is. Looks pretty all right doing that. So if I need to go back to that night animation where I've got all those clips playing at once, like for a start menu, I could use that. Now I'm going to come in here and start breaking these out. So turn this off for one, turn off the play mode. Under night animation, we create a new clip, and we're just going to call this idle. IDLE, not IDOL. We're not supposed to have idles. Ask your Bible professors, it's okay. And then I think I've got these all here. So for idle, I want frames somewhere around about 53 through 57. So with this open here, I'll go grab those. Click one, hold down shift, grab them all, drag them in. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set my samples to 12. And now I've got an idle animation. I'm just going to go down the line and start doing these all up. So I'm going to create a new clip for run. That looks like 84 to 91. Last frames here, drag that in. We'll do jump. which looks like 81 to 83. So just these guys right here. There's a lot more frames there than what I'm using, but I'm trying to use just a few frames to keep things snappy. You want your characters to feel like they're moving as soon as you hit the button. So you want those animations to happen really fast. So we got jump. Do one for mid-air. So we've got like the launch, but then we just want him to like kind of look like he's floating a little bit while he's in the air before we land. So we'll do a mid-air one. And let me see where I can find those. Mid-air is 51 and 52, all the way away from 81 and 83. I don't know. It's not my spreadsheet. So these guys, drag that in. I'm going to again set my samples to 12. And what do I got? I've got idle, jump, mid-air, run. I need the attack. So I'm going to go ahead and create an attack one. This time I'm going to set the samples to 30. We want this one to happen really fast. And then let me go see which ones I want there. Like 31 to 40. Figure out which way to scroll. There we go. 31 all the way to 40. There's my attack. And we're good. Okay. When I did that and created him and set up all these clips, it also created the animator controller. So let's just go look at these in the assets folder. So here in sprites, there's my stuff from the keys earlier. I made key animations. Close that down. And then I put all my other stuff here in the animations folder, if I can click it. So these are animation clips. Little triangles, little dashy waves off of them, and then this is the animation controller. So this guy is this. So the first one we made is the night animation. So by default, that's the first thing that's going to happen. We start the game, he goes into that night animation, which is all the frames, way too much stuff going on. So I'm going to just drag this off over here. I'm going to right-click on idle. I'm going to make that my default layer. So my default state. So when we come into the game, we're not getting input. No one's hitting any keys. He's just going to idle. He's going to stand there and look a little menacing or whatever he's doing. So let me go ahead and he's all set up. Let me just look at that right now and see that he's idling in midair for whatever reason. Looks like he's headbanging. He's bopping pretty good. So he's just hanging out, doing his idle. Okay. Huh? No, not yet, but that's what I need to do next. So I need to set him up. So we had our player, and it had all its cool stuff on it, right? It had, we had rigid bodies, we had colliders, we had other colliders, we had our side scroll player script, and we had an audio source. I'm going to do all of that to this guy and then set him up as our new player. So we need let's go ahead and make a capsule collider for his actual self. So this is what we collide with. So I'm going to go ahead and edit that. Kind of move it in here. Grab this. So this right here, pivot global, that's his center. And so we're actually going to set him up so the sprite's a little off because we needed room in each of those sprites for him to do his attack and all of his sword bashing and everything else. So that's the center of him. And so I'm going to put my collider around the center of where he's at because I'm going to actually flip him back and forth, right? So right now he's just facing one way. If I hit my other arrow key and turn him around to walk backwards, we don't want him to actually walk backwards. We're going to flip him around. So we're going to leave his center where it's at and just kind of put this collider here in the middle. And so that's what he's going to be using to detect whether he's colliding with walls or whatever else. Okay, I'm going to give him the rigid body, 2D, We definitely liked having gravity on that, but we're going to freeze the rotation so he doesn't literally flip out. We'll add the circle collider for his feet. That needs to be a trigger. Let me go ahead and edit that. Just kind of set that at his feet. So this little bit right here. It's going to look weird when my back leg's hanging off and I didn't catch that jump, but it's okay. We're going to go with it. Hopefully the players are moving so fast they don't notice. So got that, and then we had what else on it? We had an audio source. He was playing the background music, which we decided was, oh, that's the one I maybe stole from a student. Classical Hero. Yeah, we'll go with that. That was the one. There's our audio that loops. And then finally, we needed our side scroll player. So we're just setting this guy up to be exactly like the last player was. Let's just double check and make sure all that works. I'm going to take my existing player and just hide him. Call this new player. Let's see if he works before I save him as a tab. Confused Unity. Awesome. Ah, what else did the player have? He had a camera. Oops. Okay. I'm just going to steal this main camera and give it to him. Nope. Won't let me do it. Okay. Let's give him his own. So you can have a camera, sir. And he'll be tagged main camera. And the other thing we need to do is make sure that player is tagged player. Okay, now we'll try this. I'm not sure. I need to set my camera settings. I don't know why he zoomed in. That's yeah. That's an aggressive idle. I'm concerned actually. Okay. Let me just copy some camera settings over and then we'll save this off. So background was good. We are an orthographic 5 Z negative 10. Okay. It didn't want to let me steal that camera. Perspective, that's part of it. That's going to be a problem. Okay. See any of the changes. That's a slightly darker background color. Other than that, looks good. Okay, let me try that. And he's bopping. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to get rid of this player. And then I'm going to move this new player down and make a prefab out of him so I can use him on other levels before I finish getting him set up. Here we go. New player's done. Okay, now when you go back to my animator and finish setting this guy up. So this is kind of some weird voodoo magic, but it all works. Just get out of my way, please. Thank you. All right. Some room. So we got the idle set up as our main. And now I want to transition to run and to jump. Midair. You can just drag these and move them around, do whatever you want with them. I'm just kind of planning out. So from idle, I want to transition to run when they start to give inputs. I want to make transition and then drag that over and click on run. When I'm done running, I want to start idling again. So on run, I'm going to right click, make transition, and then back to idle, and click that. So I'm going to go from idle to run and run to idle. Let me set all this up first. So I need parameters. How am I going to know when it's time to run versus his aggressive stance? When a button's pressed. So I can get that button press from my script. And once I get that button press in my script, I can call something on my animator here. So I'm going to go over here to parameters, and I'm going to create a new parameter. So I'm going to make a Boolean called is running, and that's either going to be true or false. And that'll be my parameter on whether or not I should run. So on this transition arrow here, the arrow doesn't get much bigger. Okay, everything else does. From idle to run, okay, when I've got that arrow selected, I've got my conditions here. I'm in the inspector window, so I can hit this plus, and it already knows about one of my parameters and says, hey, when is running is true, and it did a good guess. Yes, when is running is true, we'll transition from idle to run. On the way back, from run to idle, hit that plus, it shows is running, and so we're going to say when false. When we're no longer running, go back to idle. I'm going to do a couple more things here. So on each of these blue arrows, just to make sure that things look really snappy, I'm going to uncheck has exit time, and I'm going to uncheck fixed duration. So we want this thing to happen quick. I want to save it like it was a script. This stuff all saves automatically, but I'm in scripting mode in my brain here. So that's good. We'll try all that out in the script in a minute. So the same thing for the jump, with a little caveat. So when I hit the jump button, I want to transition from idle to jump. And that jump animation, like, has got him on the ground and then starting to launch up. So that's the start of what I want. And then I want to transition from that to my mid-air sequence, which is 2 frames just flipping back and forth. And so while he's in mid-air, just keep cycling these 2 frames. And then when I'm done, when I land, I'll transition back to idle again. So I've got this whole arrow thing going on. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create a parameter that's a Boolean, and this will be is jumping. So on this guy, for that arrow, that condition, I'm going to hit that plus button. It's going to pull up my list of conditions. Go to is jumping is true. Then we're going to go from idle to jump. Same thing. Change that exit time and fixed duration. So it's going to happen snappy like. As soon as this is done, as soon as those frames are done, it's going to transition right away to midair because of this arrow. And then midair is just going to keep cycling until I give it another condition. So when I hit the ground again, new condition, go is jumping, is false, go back to idling. And same jazz here. Just going to change those up. All right, so we got a jump set up, allegedly. I know, you just have to take my word for it for now. Just because the guy, you saw him just standing there. He looked aggressive, right? Looked like he'd just fight anybody at any time. So we're going to go from any state to attack. I don't care if he's in the middle of running, if he's like free falling for miles, from any animation state, we're going to say, you know what, this guy probably wants to attack. So I'm going to go ahead and say we can attack from any point. We don't have to be idle. We don't have to be anything else. Anything can be interrupted, and we can do our attack. When we're done with our attack, though, we're going to want to go back to idle. So transition back here. And I'm going to do one more parameter here. This time, instead of a Boolean to see whether something is true or not, funny enough, we've got him doing an attack, so we're going to give him a trigger. Right? Dude got triggered. Now he's just ready to go. So do attack will be the name of my trigger. And this is like a Boolean that just gets reset immediately. It just happens. We do our thing. We don't care if it's true or false. We know the guy got triggered and he went and attacked somebody. So there's my new parameter. And so on this arrow from any state to attack, scroll down here to conditions and then do attack. And there's nothing to set here because it's just a one-off call. So that happens. We don't want a duration. Don't have an exit time. Just go. That shouldn't matter. I'm trying to think of what else we might need to do here. That all looks good. Okay, so we can go from attack. We can go to jump and then back, and we can go to run and back. And this, that had all the clips in it. We're just saving for whatever for later. We're not going to use it from our actual gameplay. So we got our parameters set up. We've got all this done, and we should look something like this now. Yeah, close enough. Okay. Now, all I need to do really is make a few extra lines to my side scroll player controller, and we can start watching these things happen. So that should be all set up. I'm going to go back to my scene. Here's my new player. Where's that thing at? So side scroll player, I'm going to double click and open that up. Okay. I'm going to need a few things, a few extra parameters here. And so we can call them public or private. I don't need them to be either one. We don't have to call anything. We can just say animator. And animator, by default, that should be private, since I didn't tell it whether to be private or public. And then I'm also going to do the same thing for a sprite renderer. Okay, interesting. RB sprite. That's all right. ChatGPT just busted in on Visual Studio and said, "Hey, let's make up some weird names." I'm going to call it sprite renderer so it matches what you're going to find on Canvas later. And then the standard stuff here. So on start, I want to get those things. Look at that magic. Thanks, Visual Studio. And set them up. So I'm going out. I'm getting the components that are on this object, whatever this script is on, saying get the animator, get the sprite renderer, get set up. Cool. Okay. Our input's all going to stay the same. If we're moving left or right, we're calling that horizontal input, and we're going that direction. But a few things I want to change in here. So call my animate stuff. If I'm getting horizontal input and it is greater than 0, then I want to animate. Go. So I'm going to call my animator, and I'm just going to set that Boolean that we just set up. And here's where naming is really important. I think I called that is running. And if I capitalize an extra letter in here, if I do anything else wrong with that, it's not going to find this string and it's not going to set up. So hopefully I remembered what I said. So is running. I'm going to set to true. So comma true. And then the other thing I'm going to do is this is greater than 0, then I want to tell my sprite renderer not to flip backwards. So I've got this cool thing on our sprites. I don't know if you saw it in the should be false. Yeah, well, you saw it in the inspector when you're doing all the sprite stuff. But we can flip sprites. So that what? You want him to moonwalk everywhere he goes? Okay, yeah, that seems legit. I kind of like that. Right, yeah, aggressive. Well, I think moonwalking by default is aggressive. So this flip here is something that all sprites have had the whole time. So we got this flip button. That's all we're doing is we're saying on X, flip or not. And so you can see when I check this box, this is what we're calling from code, telling him to flip. If we really wanted to watch him like fall down, like if he's falling for so far, we're not going to do this. But I'm just an idea. we could just flip him upside down and say he's just going head first into whatever. We got all that stuff available to us. So we're just using a property of the sprite renderer component and telling him to flip or not. So let's go back to our script. So we decided if he's greater than 0, we don't want to flip. And now we need to finish this out. So else, if our horizontal input is less than 0, we're still going to say he's running. I'm just going to copy and paste this. But we're going to flip him. So flip X is going to be true. And then finally, else. So if it's not greater than 0 and it's not less than 0, what can we assume at this point? It's 0. Yeah. So I could say else if it's 0, or we can just assume. If it didn't meet any of these conditions, then we're going to say our animator controller. We're not going to care about the flip. Then we're going to say our animator controller, the Boolean, we're going to set back to false. We're not getting input on the horizontal. So is running is now false again. Good. We falsified documents. Perfect. That's what we wanted to do. And so now I need to come down to fixed update on the jump. And if we're jumping, same thing. We want to animate. And animate. One of those words. So animator, we're going to set the bool that we decided to call is jumping. Or Froggy Boy, or whatever you want to call it, is jumping just made sense. We're going to say it is true. So we're just setting a Boolean here. So we're about to jump, right? We added force. We said we shouldn't jump again because we don't want a double jump or Minecraft creative mode jump. So we're just going to call this Boolean. Hey, they're jumping now. And so that's going to call the first few frames of jump and then immediately transition into that loop of midair. We don't have to call that. That just happens. And now we're just going to clean it up. So at the very end, if we land and we're on the ground again, reset the animation. And I'm just going to paste that in. It was already in my clipboard. And I'm cheating. All right, so is jumping is false. It would have been faster just to do that. Make sure I got that. So reset the animation. So we landed, is jumping is false, which means it's going to go back to idle. Let me just save this, and let's just test our jumping and running and make sure we didn't break anything. Loading. Fantastic. Okay. Try it out. Okay, he's idling aggressively. Something's up with that jump. Okay, he kind of stayed there. Run back and forth. My favorite thing about games and cartoons, right? Mid-air movement. In the middle of free fall, you can change directions. Yeah, we could do that in the script. So if you wanted to just apply the force and whatever momentum he had going, then in our script we could just check for up here, right? If we're in the middle of jumping or if we're not grounded, then we just won't get input. Right now, the way this line is set up, I've got no condition on it. So it doesn't matter if he's falling, jumping, dead. Horizontal movement's going to move them. So yeah, all we got to do is wrap that in a, hey, if they're on the ground, then movement works. And then we can't move back and forth in midair. That also means I'm going to miss every jump and I'm going to get mad at this game and I'm going to rage quit. So that's what you want. We can do that. I'm gonna be that guy. All right. So those mostly work. Let's go ahead and add the attack. I'm going to do that in a separate script. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and come down here, close these up, add a component. I'm going to do new script just for attack. So I'm going to call it attack. You can call it something else if you want, because we have too many things called attack. The animation is called attack. The script is called attack. But whatever. All right. So my attack script. As usual, I don't need these things. Thanks, but no thanks. See what I do need. I'll use all that. Okay. So lots to set up here. I'm going to need public game object. That will be my bullet or whatever. So what I'm going to do, did you see what we chose? So we've got all these attacks here on the sprite sheet. Maybe it's easier to look at here. All right. We've got him standing still. He does like a downward thrust. He does a sideways slash. But this one right here, I think, looked the most promising. And I don't think I used all of it. He's doing this like forward thrust with his sword. And it's kind of reminding me of like Link when he's got like his little blast on his sword. So I'm just using this clip here. And so the guy, forget all this other stuff. He stabs forward with his sword. And we're just going to launch an energy bullet or something rather than do melee attacks. This knight with his sword is a sniper. Don't worry about it. The logic makes sense. So that's what we're doing. So I've got a bullet that I'm going to create. So I'm going to need a game object for that. I'm going to need you can use a game object or just transform, but I'm going to use a game object here. And this will be my, what did I decide to call it? Fire point. So I need an empty transform or game object that I can say, when I create the bullet, start it here. So I just need a point in space. I'm going to use that. And then I need my animator. Because I'm going to call that guy to make that cool blasty thing go happen. And then I need a Boolean just for fire forward. And this is going to be the same thing as that flip the sprite. So whichever direction we were facing last, we want to fire our bullet that direction, rather than always be firing one way. And so I think by default we'll set that to true. We've got a Boolean called fire forward. And then I need a float that's going to be bullet force. Since we're using rigid body to blast this thing forward, kind of the same way we made the guy jump up, how much force are we going to blast with this bullet? Let's just start with a nice low number like 1,500. But since that's public, I can change that in the inspector anytime. If I'm like, wow, that thing went too fast or not fast enough, then I've got that public, so we can change it. This, I guess, doesn't need to be public unless we just want to look at that Boolean flip back and forth in the inspector. But that's what I've got here. So on start, I'm going to set this up. We want our animator to get created. And then in update, we're looking for our horizontal input. That's going to be input. Very similar to what we had in the other script. And I could have put all this in the same script, but I just like to keep things separate. This is just for attacking. It doesn't need to be muddying up the other script. It just needs to do its thing. So I'm going to get horizontal input. I'm not going to move the guy, but I'm going to say, hey, which way did he face last, basically. Same as we did with that flipping thing. So we've got our horizontal input and kind of the same thing as we did before. So So if horizontal input, and I want this to be greater than 0, I'm just going to be setting our booleans. So fire forward is going to equal true. Why do you want me to set it right back to false? That's bad code. It's true, it's false. Just kidding. I don't know. Else if horizontal input is less than 0, then fire forward is false. Yeah, that seems right. Okay, so I'm just picking a direction to shoot. So every time we're moving, we're just updating that boolean, whether we should fire forward or not. Okay, so come down a little bit, and then if input get button down, and we'll look for fire 1. So these are cool things that Unity already has set up for us in the input manager. Just like we're calling horizontal, we call fire. By default, fire 1 is going to be your mouse click. It's going to be your control key. If you've got a controller already hooked up, it's going to be like A, B, or X, or one of those. It's already set up for us. Really nice. If I take this out and I just say get button, I've got rapid fire, which we're already maybe stretching the imagination with our knight who shoots bullets. Knight who shoots a fully automatic sword may be crazy. So say get button down. So I'm literally, when the button is pressed down, then I'll do this thing once, and that's it. So get button down, fire 1, and then I'm going to call my animator. And then we're going to set a trigger. Man, sometimes it just helps too much. It's a pop-up after pop-up of everything. Okay, set trigger. And I just want this to be, what does it say, do attack? And again, if we called it wrong, then we're in trouble. And then I'm going to fire a bullet. So I'm going to call a function that I haven't even created yet called fire bullet, because, again, and we talked about this when we did the jumping. This is the update function, which is called every frame. We're going to be using the physics engine to fire bullets. We don't need to play with anything in physics inside update. So I'm just going to call another function that says, hey, fire the bullet. And that'll be down here. So we make it private. Void fire bullet. And then there we go. So here's where we're going to use all these other things that we set up here, right? We've got this bullet game object. We've got our fire point. We've got bullet force, all that other fun stuff. So here's the guts of this whole script. So bullet instantiation. Go look it up how it's spelled. I'm going to create a new bullet. And I'll even just call it new bullet. Because why not? And then I'll instantiate the bullet game object that I've got set up, and I need to tell it where from. So it's going to instantiate from our fire point dot transform dot position, and we'll even use the fire point rotation. And yes, that's a lot of code for just making a thing appear. And then just in case, I think I need this. I don't know if for sure. So as game object. All right. That's a long line of code. Doesn't even fit on the thing. So I'm creating a new bullet. I'm pulling in this prefab, and then I want it to appear at this position with this rotation, and now it exists. So it'd be great if we just set a bullet up in midair and had it do nothing, right? You want to see a gun work like that? Maybe in a cartoon, like if someone puts their like finger in the chamber, then the bullet gets stopped. That's kind of what we have happening here. That's yes, that's yeah. Thank you. I was not born in Texas like many of you. Yeah, I'm not quite an NRA full-fledged member. Okay, now I need to get the rigid body off of that bullet so that I can launch it forward. Barrel, chamber, whatever. So I'm gonna get the rigid body, and so I need the rigid body 2D. Huh. Okay. We'll call it the temp rigid body equals, and then we're going to get component. Off of the new bullet. So new bullet, get component. There we go. Now it figured out what I was trying to do. So I'm just getting the rigid body, and then I can do cool stuff with it. So we're going to push the bullet forward. So now is where we're going to use that Boolean. So if fire forward is true, then we'll do that. Else, we'll do something else. So if it's true, and we want to launch forward, then I'm going to grab my temp rigid body. I'm going to add force. And give it a direction. It's going to be transform dot right. So we're firing it to the right. It's not transform, it's transform. And then times our really weak bullet force, which we just set as that low, what, 1500 or something. So I'm going to make a comment on that. So we're going forward. This is fire. Fire to the right. Otherwise, fire to the negative right, aka left. Trust me. All right, so I'm just going to copy this. Literally, it's transform, fire negative transform dot right. So I've still got a direction saying go the other way. So a negative right is a left. Two wrongs don't make a right, but a negative right definitely makes a left. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. He's negative right-handed. And then we're good to go, right? We done? What could possibly be left to do? We fired the bullet. Huh? Destroy? Well, we'll destroy stuff next week. We'll get there. The bullet needs to be destroyed. Otherwise, if I keep spamming this thing, I could end up with a million bullets that the physics engine is like, oh yeah, you fired that thing 5 minutes ago. It's off over there. Bullet's still going. So once it goes so far, we're just going to get rid of it, right? So I'm going to say destroy, new bullet, after like 2 seconds. So it'll be a float. Honestly, this is a small screen. In 2 seconds, it's probably already made it to the end of the level. So 2 is plenty. Hmm? Yeah, 1,500 fours. Who knows what that looks like? So allegedly, this script looks good. What?
What about if it hits like another?
We'll get there. We'll get there. So right now, I just want to see the thing fire. Next week, we'll worry about does it hit enemies, does it hit whatever. Also, we haven't created the bullet yet, so this is just the script to get ready for it. Come back here, and I'm just going to shrink some of these down here. So we've got our attack script. We need to find a point to fire from, and we need a bullet. And then our fire forward is set to true by default, and our force is 1,500. So in my new player, I'm going to go ahead, since he's already prefab, I'm going to hit this arrow here. And this gets me into prefab mode, and I'm editing the prefab. Let me just shrink this icon down here. Doesn't look like he's got a speaker in his face the whole time. Oh, this is actually good. It looks like he's got a megaphone. Okay, I distracted myself. We need to add just an empty. So I'm going to go ahead and create game object empty. And we've got this empty point in space, which is down off over here for whatever reason. And we're going to call this the fire point. And so this is where we want our bullet to start from. So first I'm going to come over here to the transform and reset it back to 0, 0. And then I'll just kind of move this around. Probably about midpoint on the shield. I think that's good. So it's like -2, we'll just call it 2.5. Number lock is not on. Fantastic. So I've got it at 0, -0.25, and 0, and that's going to be my fire point. And here in prefab mode, you can see it. I can see my whole level, but it's all grayed out. I'm just focused on this guy. And autosave should be on automatically. So if I hit back, then now all prefabs of new player have a fire point. Let me give it that. Let me tell the fire point that it is the fire point. So that's where we want to launch bullets from. And now I need to make a bullet. So I'm going to make something really simple here. You want to use another sprite, like a shiny, sparkly star or whatever, that's fine. Have fun. I'm just going to keep this simple because we got people falling asleep. So I'm going to just do a circle, create a circle out here in the middle of nowhere. It's all by his lonesome. Cool thing I like on the transform is I can just hit this little guy right here, and this will lock to where I'm scaling on all 3 axes at the same time. So I'm going to set that to 0.25. 0.2? Yeah, 0.2. Looks good. Sure, I'm just imagining. Okay, so 0.2 on the scale. We'll change it to like a yellow to kind of match what's going on with this little blasty thing going on. Whatever color you like. And then I'm going to add a circle collider 2D. We'll make this a trigger. So it can fly through trees, it can fly through walls, whatever. We won't care what this thing does until it hits an enemy. Do we have an enemy this week? No. It's okay. We're just going to fire bullets. We're just going to like basically be in a field shooting our guns. Welcome to Texas. So we got our circle collider. It's is trigger, and it's not going to go forward unless I give it that rigid body that we need. So I'm going to set a rigid body. I'm going to set the gravity scale to 0. If I keep the gravity at 1, then the gravity is going to be fighting the force, and eventually the bullet will like lob down. But it's a magic bullet. It can just go on forever. So gravity is at 0. And then we'll just, well, I guess we need to freeze the rotation, but I will anyway. It's a circle. No one's going to know. Set that up. So rigid body, gravity 0, and then the circle collider is trigger. And we've got what I would call a bullet. So I'm just going to call this energy musket. What? Orb? Let's call it an energy orb. The orb of power. And I'll make them into a prefab. So got them all set up. Got my energy orb. I drag it into my free prefabs folder. Now it's a prefab. Look at it. Magical. I don't need it here anymore. So I can delete it from my scene. If I go to my new player, scroll down to my attack script, I'm just going to take that energy orb and put it in here as the bullet. Any of these things in here that if I've got a rigid body on them, I could use them as bullets. So I want to add, I want to add a rigid body to a tree or to a door. Maybe I fire coins. You make a copy of yourself. That seems completely bizarre. Let's try that next. Let's just make sure this works first. Yeah, then you got like this whole Inception scenario going on there for sure. Okay, so he runs, he jumps. Now if I hit control, it's gone. Like I see it. Maybe 1500 is a bit fast. Also, we might need to go a little bit slower on the attack there. For whatever reason, we're getting two frames out of it. All right, so I'm just gonna clean that up a little bit. It was in my sprites animation, so on the attack, I had that set to 30. Remember which way I want to go. Let's try to like 35. No, other way. Do 24. What happened fast, but not so fast that we get it called twice. So I'm just gonna set that. Still hitting twice. Okay, whatever. He's really aggressive. So that works. That only, wow, okay, that took an hour. Didn't feel like an hour to me. I was having fun. All right, let's check the rubric here, make sure we get all the things we're supposed to do, and then maybe we'll fire another night out of the night. So we got all that set up. We got our scripts. I highlighted here what was different. So this is the same side scroll player that we've been having. These are the things I added. So it should be easy to set up. This is all new script. And then you still need to add a start menu with, it's going to have these buttons on it, play, options, and quit. They don't do much. The play button will launch the next scene. Follow that. The other thing I want you to do with this is I want you to add a title onto that start scene. So I've been calling it Forest of Doom. You can call it Worst Experience of College So Far, whatever you want to call it. Name the game, and then give it also its own background music. So the background music should be different from the actual in-game music. Title, music, game music. So yeah, I'm having you do a few things. So we want to add a title, we want to add music. If you want to bring in other animated characters because you've already been working on them in Piscal, or there's already a warrior guy in that folder, Fantasy Forest that we've been playing with, or just find, Sonic or Mario or whatever. Just don't tell Nintendo. They'll come after you. So you want to add a different animated character in as a second NPC, as a whatever, a different player for a different level. You want to start them as an enemy. Get some extra credit there. Right now, our bullet orbs do nothing. You want to work ahead and make them do something? Fine. Maybe I shoot the keys at the door to unlock it. I don't know. And then not as many points, but again, if you put it to WebGL, the updated one, then we get some points there. The video will go here and we're done. And then as always, make sure to check the rubric. It'll tell you how many points each thing is worth. And if you're like, you know what, my grade is really good and I don't feel like adding background music, I don't need that 5 points, that is your choice as a semi-adult. So check the rubric out.
Will you post all the possible scripts required for at least
This is it. Yeah, it's all right here. It's all on this page. It's on the assignment page. Due Monday night. So that's that. Work on that. Let's look at the rest of this week. So Thursday, you're presenting your demo and early progress. Someone asked what that needs to look like. Let's start with PowerPoint, same or slides, whatever. So you'll come up the same as you did your product pitch when you're like, hey, this is the game we think we're going to make. Have slides, come up, have video of your thing working, because if you're like, oh, I'm just going to open up Unity really quick while I'm up here demoing with my team, Unity's going to crash. Something's going to happen. Every live demo ever blows up in your face. I promise. So get us, if you've got stuff working in Unity that you want to show off, do a quick screen recording of that. Show off your art, show off your stuff. We talked about that. So Thursday we are doing demos. There's 18 teams. If I give you like 5 minutes each, 2 minutes each, we should be able to get through it pretty fast. We may or may not have our last guest speaker has decided to come talk to us on Thursday. I'm not sure yet. So we will adjust accordingly. Plan on going really fast with your demo update. Next week, I did unlock a few things for next week so we can see what's happening. Next week will be Halloween. So if you're going to enter this extra credit thing for you made a cool GIF, aka or a sprite sheet in Piskel, you can do that. Also, there's this. This will go in the participation points. So if you've been caught sleeping in class, or you missed a whole class and didn't get participation points, or you're just like a junkie for points. I have people who like to get out of here. Matthew, with like 100 and how much percent did you get in this class? At 111% total for the class by the end of the semester. Some people like that. So yeah, this will go in the participation category, but it's helpful. So if you want to show up in a costume on Tuesday, do that. That's it. Huh? I can obviously tell it's Halloween by looking at you. Yeah. So like this, you're wearing a hat today, maybe not. This, maybe. This might be a costume. Hold on. Let's. Maybe this is a costume. Maybe I should be writing a book right now, and I'm not doing it. Yeah. All right. Work on Forest of Doom. Take the cool stuff you learned from that and apply it to your final project. See you Thursday, along with your final projects.